Well, good morning, everybody. Let me get my notes up here. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for what are we, the 14th day? Yes, we are. The 14th day of April, 2020. Well, we have a 5 energy for today. My husband just told me that President Obama just endorsed Joe Biden, so I don't know. Maybe that's our change for the day. He was also talking about how Governor Cuomo is, in his briefing, is talking about when you reopen New York City, you're talking about they don't have the money to pay staff now to clean the subways and clean everything. People, where I live, I guess we do have a fledgling bus service, but not really in my town. I think it's more the town over. But they come here, I guess. I don't know. We have senior and disabled bus services and things, but they're minimal, Otherwise, you either walk where you go or you drive or you ride a bike or something. We don't have subways, we don't have any of those things. And so, or trains or anything like that carry people to work like they do on the East Coast. Subways and all of that, they get around differently. And so I started thinking about what that would be like. And oh my Lord, it's like, oh yes, just reopen the country. No, it's a little more complicated than that. So I don't know. This is going to be interesting to see how, when this happens, if it happens in baby steps or how it's even going to happen in terms of getting people where they need to go every day if businesses start to reopen. I guess it really does matter where you live as to how complicated that situation is going to be. Now, in my area, it's just a matter of going to work again or just going about your lives. You're probably going to have to do it, in a sanitized way for quite a while, but I'm sure that that's what it's going to look like. You're going to see people, maybe some won't, but they should, in gloves and masks. And so, but then for us, it's just a matter of getting in your car or walking if you live close enough or whatever, depending on where you live and where you work. So, people that live in town and work in town, then it could be just as easy as just getting on a bicycle or just walking. No big deal, or driving if you live out where we do. But the point is that there's even in the cities, there's going to have to be additional measures taken to keep things at a different level of clean than what we're accustomed to. So, it's not that it can't be done. It's just, it's interesting when you think about reopening things and life getting back to some semblance of normal, assuming it ever can. Boy, it really matters where you are, what that looks like, So I guess we're all just going to have to take a deep breath and think about this a little while longer and make the best considerations so we don't all reinfect one another. So anyway, the moon is still 8th house Capricorn right now, still in Capricorn. 8th house is dependent on when I do it. I did this at 8:50 this morning. So in that 2-hour period that was in the 8th house. Let's see. Focus is still on routine and structural issues. Invest your time wisely with others right now. People are they need assistance. So even if it's just advice. Conjunct Pluto, truth may be revealed today, and that was a strong one. So, something could be coming out today that's important, so pay attention. If it happens to shift your perceptions on things, then that needs to happen. Sun is still where it was yesterday, 11th house Aries, squaring Jupiter and Pluto. We're going to want to keep our ego under control, again, still. Sometimes, frustration can get the better of us and maybe we act arrogant or whatever, or we're not very tactful or whatever. But right now, we need to just sort of... we need to keep all that in line, stay in our own lanes, so to speak, emotionally and verbally, and, watch that assertion, in other words, doesn't, transmute into aggression or something, because that's not going to do anybody any good. Mercury's also in the same place, 11th house Aries. Intuition is strong. Again, check in with others online. Conjunct Chiron still. the thing about this is for some, this is a difficult time, really, and not just because they're isolated, they don't know where the next money's coming from, the next paycheck's coming from. They're losing people, and it's just so abrupt. And they'll talk about it on Twitter. Maybe they'll just say a line, "I lost my husband last night. I don't know what to do." It'll be something like that. This is such a difficult time. If you're empathic, it's going to be difficult on you as well. You're going to probably pick up on all of this, feel the intensity of their experience, even if you don't know them. So you may have to control how much time you spend online, how much time you spend watching the news. This may be just too difficult. But at the same time, it can also be a tremendous source of healing. And if you can help others in that regard, and you can keep your own sanity doing so, because understand, this is not about human weakness. This is about things being just too much. Okay, so we're going to do what we can. Parents at home with their kids, and you're trying to homeschool them. Listen, I'm a homeschool mom, okay? I homeschooled my kids through part of their education, the last part. My youngest, I pulled him out at the end of 4th grade, so he was at home doing this the longest. The other one, he was at the end of 7th. Both kids graduated from college, are doing very well. I don't know. I think your kids, just let them do what they want to do. Let them spend their time with you right now. Keep them calm. Keep them loved. Make sure they know that you're doing everything in your power to keep everybody safe, that you're not going to compromise any of that. And that's really what needs to happen right now. It doesn't matter if they get a little extra vacation time. If they want to work on their school stuff, that's great. You want to start talking about things like, you can have the History Channel on, Discovery, the Learning Channel. Excuse me. You can do anything like that. Find out what they're interested in and maybe download something on Kindle. There's lots of things that you can do learning wise that don't necessarily take a structured approach, and your kids are going to be fine. Okay, they're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. If they are not up to where they're supposed to be vis-a-vis the school's decisions on that, well, that's the school's problem. It isn't your kid's problem. And it shouldn't be right now. So that's some advice from an old lady homeschool mom. So anyway, Venus, 12th house, Gemini, reflect today, nurture the feminine side still. There's a sesca square with Pluto, though, that's new. Interactions with others could be challenging. Income, obviously, is an issue right now. That could be part of it. A close person's behavior, excuse me, could be frustrating. And let's see, where's my tissue? Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Dropped it. A close person's behavior could be frustrating right now. You might feel misunderstood. Seek another path through this, though, instead of meeting it head on. This could simply be a function of the moment, all right? It could be part of an energetic wave that's going on right now. We're all at different places in that, by the way. We're not all on the same wave. Just look at a biorhythm chart. Go online, go get, you can do it for free, and do it for everyone in your house, and you'll see, compare, and just see where everything is right now for everybody, and it's not going to be the same. And so one person's intellect may be high, or intuition may be high, and might be low for someone else. Emotions could be really, in a good place for one, whereas not for another. So if you see that, just recognize that and just give them some space. There's ways to deal with things like this without necessarily dealing with it head on. And I think right now, again, just drop expectations. Mars is still 9th house Aquarius. Original thinking is favored. So is a spiritual approach. Jupiter's in the 9th house in Capricorn. Again, you're going to be looking at life's meaning and all of that, in kind of probably in a spiritual or metaphysical standpoint. I don't know. I think we end up going there when things are difficult, don't we? I think we do. I do. I know a lot of people do too. It's like all of a sudden they're trying to find meaning throughout everything. Well, I don't know what else we do. It's a natural feeling here to do that. It's part of the soul's whole reason for being here, really, and so it's natural that we would want to do that. Ninth house Aquarius for Saturn, reassessment of life direction and think outside the box. Uranus, same place, again, still dealing with semi-square Neptune, although weak now, because I think we're pretty on top of the fact that the federal government is clueless. And worse, we have a guy who does things that appear sadistic, to me anyway. Why would you do the opposite of what's needed in a pandemic? You're getting a thrill out of watching the effect, because that's what sadists do. They put in motion something, and then they step back and they watch their handiwork play out, and they get a really interesting thrill out of it. And so then it just escalates, right? And pretty soon he's getting a thrill everywhere. Well, we can't have that, and that's what's really going on here. So Neptune, you're going to, as your 11th house Pisces, and so spiritual focus again, maybe get into some kind of group online meditation. I guess there's something called Zoom now. I don't know, and people are using it for that sort of thing. I guess it's probably like GoToMeeting or something like, or maybe a multiple Skype session. But I don't use Skype, so I don't use any of that stuff. So I don't know anything at all about it. So Google it or ask someone else, because I have no idea. But that might be something you can do. Pluto, 8th house Capricorn. We want to be united with others still, but we can't necessarily do it in traditional ways. So again, reach out safely. Some people are sitting outside in their neighborhoods, but 20 feet apart in lawn chairs and talking to one another. Who knows? Maybe it's a way to get to know the neighbors, and make sure that way, if someone's struggling, if someone's having an issue and you've got more stuff and you don't need it, or you're going to be able to go to the store or something and they can't, maybe find a way to share stuff. Set it in the middle of the road and have to step back away and say, come get it. It's not funny, but make a joke out of it, and try to laugh through this as best we can. And it just sort of makes everybody understand that we're in this together, because we are, So I think everything else is pretty much the same. No real need to be repetitive, especially if you were here yesterday. But I just think right now, we're in such a transitional phase. We're in a 22-year, and that's profound. And so whatever this is all about, it's driving us to a place that we probably should have always been, and that's united. So, we're united when we're not in these bodies. Our souls are one. So, and that's all this is our soul is having a physical expression. There should be no change in that. You see what I'm saying? There should be no change in the fact that we're all one, and that we should go forward in shared purpose. We might argue about what that looks like, but so what? At least we're talking to each other, and we're headed in the we've got our eye on the same prize, on the same goal, on the same outcome, right? So nothing wrong with the spark of, individual differences, because that's how things move forward. All right. It's not, we don't need to fear that process. We need to embrace it, because that's really how all this ends up working anyway. So. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the cards. If you haven't been here before, welcome. I'm going to take the first 3 cards. If I need more, I will. Otherwise, we'll end with that, and we'll move on to a rune from the Elder Futhar bag, and we'll end with a geomancy rune. So if I can keep my voice going today, we've got juniper pollen is really high right now. And, of course, I live amongst juniper trees and juniper shrubs because, of course, when we moved here in 1981, the thing to do was to landscape the yards with 99-cent pots at the store, right, of juniper plants, different ones. I didn't have allergies back then. 5 years later, I did. But what am I going to do? I'm not going to pull out all those plants. So anyway, I've just had to get used to it and treat it herbally. So later on, I'll have some tea with nettle in it, and I'll make sure I put some nettle tincture in it to clear up my sinuses here. So anyway, let's go ahead and take our first 3 cards. I take the 13th one each time for randomness sake. Well, we have the Hierophant, the 5th card of the Major Arcana. knowledge, tradition, structure, spiritual mastery. I'm not exactly fond of the whole structure of this, having, a priest as, controller. But if we think of it in terms of higher self, controlling the polarity within, then that's really, our higher self should be controlling everything about us, all of our decisions, all of our perceptions. It shouldn't be dependent upon ego's reaction, because once you go there, well, all is lost. Or at the very least, it's a lot more dicey. Well, we have the world, 21st card, last card of the major arcana. We come full circle. You see the lemnis skates on the top and bottom of the circle. It's a very Kabbalistic card. You see the man, the lion, the eagle, the ram. I used to know what they were called. I cannot remember for the life of me. In fact, I just saw it the other day. I should have written it down. I'm only so familiar with the Kabbalah and that type of an influence on tarot. I'm learning more about it, but it's hard for me to keep a lot of it straight because it's using language that I'm unfamiliar with, basically. I mean, a Jewish tarot reader would have no problem because they study the Torah and all of that, and so they know what all this is. But for me, I'm not, and so but I like the Tree of Life. I like studying it. It's just trying to remember the names of all of it. I get confused. But then I'm old, so what are you going to do? Probably should have started that younger in life. Let's see, Ace of Pentacles. We had this yesterday. So I guess it's going to emphasize that. We're going to put that in the center. Basically, what the major arcana is, at least in my view, these are soul archetype cards. And so it's really talking about the issues that the soul is going to face when it comes into form. Because you have this weird dichotomy between what the soul wants to do and what the ego wants to do. We think or some religions say that, essentially say that you work your way back to God by doing good works. No, that's not true. It just isn't. And I'm sorry about that, but it's not true. When the Great Mother or Source Energy or God or whatever you wish to call the Creator, the Creator in my view is all that is. So if the Creator is all that is, and I look at it as the Great Mother, but that's just me. When the Great Mother breathes out the universe, basically, what she's doing is she's expressing herself and her thought patterns and her desires, all of that, into some kind of tangible form. It slows there, it was done in a way, my understanding anyway, it was done in a way where it was established that this would happen, the material was there, and then varying levels of angels, angelic spirits, angelic consciousnesses, avatar type, not even, because angels actually came in later, but you're talking about different types of forming consciousness that from there formed each layer of reality. Okay, so you've got some that do it on a galactic level, a universe level. You've got some that do it then on a planetary level. You've got some then, and they're responsible for the creation of the individual as well. Okay, and then from there we have all of these guardian spirits that are here helping each one of us get through this experience. A lot of times, what it is the planetary ones oversouls are expressed basically, and from there the oversoul of each one of us has an oversoul, and from that oversoul guides everybody, right? It expresses all the different lifetimes that you have. Okay, and so what you have then is you have this varying degree and structure, or whatever, not degree but structure of benevolence. That's really what it is. It's made of will, love, benevolence, and that's what the will of the Creator to express forth into tangible form. The benevolence that it takes to create all this, the love that it takes to create all of this, the desire. I think that when you look at it that way, you realize the power of creation. So why would you ever give that up to focus on the ego? Right? So, since someone else's ego has been affecting us for so long now, because whether you support the guy in the Oval Office or you don't, his ego has affected all of us. Whatever this is, whether it's dementia that the doctors are saying, whether it's drug addiction, like some are saying, other doctors are saying, you're looking or you're looking at a severely mentally ill individual. That's what others are saying as well. You've got this whole package of things that even if one of them is true, we find that out. Only one of it was true. It's too much for him to be in that position. He shouldn't be there. He's not capable. He can't make the right decisions, clearly. Can't make the right decisions for anyone, not for the country, not to keep anyone safe, not to do the right thing when you do the opposite of what you should be doing every single time. That person can't be trusted to make decisions. They're going to make decisions that hurt people or worse. And that's what we're seeing now. So yesterday we had the Ace of Pentacles as part of a new way forward, a new path forward. Pentacles, of course, is the earth element. It's about not just our physical surroundings, it's about, or our career, but it's about our legacy. It's about the Akashic record. It's about who we are to each other. All right. And how we manifest that in harmony while still getting things done, right? The spark of individual differences doesn't mean we're not in harmony, because we're in harmony about the path we're on. And at some point, the argument's going to stop. Everyone's going to stand there and laugh and go, okay, let's start over. Let's figure this out. We don't need to be doing this. And so eventually you move forward, right? And yesterday, I think that we discovered that that's what we're doing now. That new information maybe came in, and we're kind of figuring out that something isn't right here. There was an article released by the New York Times, I think it was the New York Times, on the weekend, that describes what has gone on just since January. And it's not good. He's literally done this, or worse, he's done tunnel vision, right? And he's not stepped up to the plate to help anybody. He views it as a battlefield, and it's not. So as long as he does, he's incapable of making the right decisions for people. So we decided yesterday that a new path forward is in the offing. That you go through the archway of abundance. You see the greenery all the way around it. You see the pathway, and yeah, there's mountains in the background. So it's going to be difficult. I mean, just listening to what my husband said about what Cuomo said this morning about having to just figure out, how are we going to get to work safely? Is there going to be masks and gloves for everyone? Because there isn't going to be a way to clean the subways and the trains. How are you going to do all that? We don't have the money. He says we don't have 2 nickels to rub together because we've spent it all on this. We can't get any help from the federal government, who's supposed to be doing it, right? Yeah. Again, new path forward. So when we think about it that way, it sort of makes the Hierophant a little bit different, doesn't it? Here we have the priest, otherwise known as the Hierophant, sitting on his throne. He's holding, well, 2 fingers and a thumb, so that's a 3. But if we just want to say 2, and then you've got 3 little ticks there on his scepter, so there's 5. You've got 3 levels on his crown. Looks like there's 5 little spires on that middle one. Or maybe 5 on the lower one too, and I can't tell on the top one. Maybe looks like 3. And then you see the 3 little deals on the top. The 3 have to do with knowledge, tradition, and structure. So we have to ask ourselves, what does that mean? You know, whose knowledge, whose tradition, whose structure? Because if we're looking at a Hierophant who doesn't care about people, who is just dealing with his own authority and his own power, basically, is he going to express that in a way that's benevolent and takes care of people and actually informs them in a way about things they need to actually know? Or do we call it fake news and go play golf? Here's the thing. He knew about it in November. Get angry. You know, that's where we need to be right now. When you see the 2 pillars, you could also think in terms of the middle way, choosing a moderate path. The person in the Oval Office doesn't know how to do that. And if we are supporting this man, if we're putting all of our faith in what he tells us to do, if the president tells me to do this, I'm going to do it. You know, even though the medical professionals are screaming from the rooftops, don't do it. They told him to shut things down in February, to start self-isolating in February. He wouldn't listen. How many people could be alive today had he listened and said to the states, look, I think this is a bad thing. I think we need to do something now. So let's get everybody locked down. Let's get everybody on the same path here. I mean, can you imagine what things would look like now? We'd likely be back to work. But, you know, he can't think that way because he's not capable of thinking. Because if all the things that people say about him, the medical professionals are saying about him are true, or even one of them, the brain's not functioning. So how can you be a president if the brain doesn't function? Okay, that's where we're at. That's why the things that are happening now are happening. It's why you've got governors that still won't shut things down in their states because they're supporters of this guy. So what does he do? He rewards them with PPE supplies. And he makes it difficult for everyone else to get them. See, that's what we're dealing with. You can't do that in a pandemic. Well, you can't do that anyway. So the new path we have with the Ace of Pentacles. And when we come to the end of the major arcana with the world, what we've done is we've come full circle. You can see the lemniscates there. Allergies. Juniper pollen is amazing. If you touch a tree or a bush, it'll just go everywhere, and immediately my eyes swell up. And I mean, it's horrible. I had no idea. I never had allergies growing up. So it takes 5 years when you relocate somewhere to a new area, and you might start to notice certain things after about 5 years. And that's what it was. In the 5th year, I got allergies, and I've had them ever since. The world is about success. It's about achievement. It's about coming full circle. So I think that, let me double check here. Yeah, completion, synthesis, and reward. Here's the thing. If we maybe reevaluate who the authority is in our lives, if we here they're saying that it's God basically with the priest as the intermediary. Well, first of all, we don't need an intermediary between who we are and the Creator, because it's the same energy. Okay, it's just maybe stepped down a little bit, but it's the same source energy. The creator creates everything. The creator is in everything. So you then say, then the creator is all. Well, if that's the case, then that's what we are. Nothing to work our way back to. It's only to turn the only thing we have to do, and maybe we just got confused as to the message. Maybe the message never was to work our way back, but to turn our attention to and to remember who we are. Maybe it's not so much that we do good works to work our way back, but that we make the realization that we are beings of spirit inhabiting these forms, and that this playground that we're on called the earth is a place to appreciate and to protect and to keep viable and living, because it's a living entity. Because the planet Earth is made up of the same source energy that makes us up, you see? Everything is source energy. Everything. So we can either live there, and basically that's where the monks wish to live. They wish to live in spirit. So they're focusing on their representation of source, their representation of the knowledge from source, perhaps. But you can find the same within meditation, aligning in your higher self-presence. Deep down, even the people that support this man know that there's something off, but they've decided they don't care, and that's the problem. Not that it's something that's off, but that they don't care. Basically, we need a different path, and it needs to be one that's based on spirit, and if we do that, then the outcome is going to be far better than if we continue this lying prostrate before someone else's ego. It makes no sense. And so that's why I say we may need to look at the concept of the Hierophant, even though, it's following religious instruction is basically what it means. Whose religion? Because we get into trouble when we do that. Well, mine's better than yours. No, it isn't. It's just religion. It's just a way that in other words, it's a pathway. Okay? All I'm saying is maybe the pathway is not so much separated religions, because that's what we end up doing with them. We can't just simply appreciate someone's, this or that, and we're this or that, and it's different. We can't just go, oh, that's cool. No. We have to do it in a different way, maybe. Because now we've gotten to the point where we realize that we can't keep that kind of stuff in perspective. So pull back to a greater awareness of self, to the soul awareness of self, and live there. Make your choices from the perceptions of your soul instead of the perceptions of your ego. Because that's the true choice, right? That's the true aspect of free will. You're either going to be reflecting the ego when you're here, or you can reflect spirit. It's up to you. It's nothing that you're bound to. You can do anything you want. I don't know why you wouldn't want to live in spirit. But instead, we hang out with the ego. It's just what we do. So it's how we are accustomed to living. So, but in this time of ascension, maybe we want to think of a different way. Rado, the fifth rune of the Elder Futhark, the soul journey. It's funny, you pull the right rune every time. It's fun when it just totally reflects what we're talking about. But Rado is integrated motion. It's a harmonious motion with someone else. Think rider and horse. Okay. People that are used to riding horses, that you can pretty much will your horse wherever you want to by just a slight pressure from one knee or the other, or both knees or something, or just a little slight tug on the reins. You don't need much, do you? I don't ride horses, but I've talked to people who have, and it just seems to me that it's such a beautiful, rhythmic, harmonious experience, especially when horse and rider are in complete sync with one another. Let's extrapolate that, though, to the collective itself, right? To humanity itself. We should be doing that with one another. That's what Rado is suggesting. Let's look at the components, though, of Rado and see what it contains. As the fifth rune of the Elder Futhark, you're talking change. But you're looking at Isa, you're looking at Laguz, you're looking at Vunyo, Kenaz. I wonder if I can get one more out of it. No, I don't think so. So we got Isa. You can see that. That's the 11th rune of the Elder Futhark, or enlightenment, master number for enlightenment, and illumination, awakening. We have Laguz is next, so flow, flowing in spirit. We have Vunyo next, looks like a P. And that's joy and fellowship with others. And then we have Kenaz, and I actually should have, actually it's twice. It's the light of spirit, inward and outward. So you direct the light of spirit within and without, which allows you then to be resonant in source presence as you then interact and are acting harmoniously with others. If everyone's doing that, you see what happens. Yesterday, it was clear that we needed to reject the message of the guy in the Oval Office, and we needed to join together in shared purpose. I don't see this as any different. And I think what it's saying here is that, and we're going to do a geomancy rune here to close out, but I think that in terms of the harmonious movement, it begins within. And so I think that's what it's saying. Although yesterday was more about, I think, our external structure, today, I think it's more about the path we take within to ignore ego, because in order to go forward in shared purpose, isn't that what we're going to have to do? We're going to have to change this. Are we going to listen to the religious priest who may not actually have our best interest at heart, although the Pope seems to be getting it right now and telling people not to be anywhere on Easter, just stay home. And so, so some are getting it, but not all pastors are, at least not in this country. Okay, so are we going to listen to someone who doesn't get it? Or are we going to listen to the voice of spirit, which does? And I think that that's really, let me move this out of the way so I can see what I have here. I think that that's really what we're talking about. What I'm seeing from religious figures in this country, I just find to be shocking. To tell your congregation that you're gonna, oh my Lord. And then some of these pastors I've read have gotten sick and died. So, okay, I mean, you can do what you want, clearly. We have the ability to do that. I'm just saying, do you really want to do that? Really? I don't know. Well, what we have here is Caput Draconis. Now, the Draconi, Caput and Cauda, they basically are dealing with the nodes of the moon. Caput represents the north node of the moon, or the present moment, or the future, whereas Cauda Draconis is thought to be evil, but that's just because it represents karma. And I mean, come on, that doesn't necessarily have to be evil. Karma's there to teach you. It's not something you need to be afraid of. It's alerting you to things. It's just like, hey, remember this? So this is Caput Draconis. And it's talking about our future, likely having to do with the new path we're on, or that we should be on. Look, I think that at some point, this is just where we're all going to be. And I mean, you may have some people who struggle and don't figure it out. But honestly, there's just going to come a point probably where we lose enough people that the ones that are being obstinate about this are seeing it as an impeachment on their freedom, that the restriction on their freedom, because, oh my gosh, freedom is so important. Yeah, it is. But when you're trying to survive a pandemic, I don't know. Should we really be talking about that? my sovereign right to do as I please, is that really what's important right now? Or is it more important to be a little smarter about this virus? You know, we don't have any way to protect ourselves right now. You've got people that are saying all kinds of things about this. All I know is that the only thing we should be thinking about is stopping it from hurting anyone. The only way you do that is to stay apart right now. And again, had we done it in February, people might have been able to all go to Easter Sunday if that's what you do. All right? And have it happen somewhat safely. Maybe we'd all have masks on. Maybe we'd all have gloves on. Maybe they'd hold it outside instead of inside the church where everybody can have some distance. But you see, then we'd have to all be on the same page, wouldn't we? And we're not. Because the cheerleader of the country, as he's called himself now, is cheerleading for the virus, apparently. Because if you're not going to help the country, who are you cheering for? If you're going to set things in motion where you're bidding against states when you tell them you have to get your own stuff and then the federal government goes in and bids against the states, are you kidding me? When your federal government is confiscating supplies from planes purchased by states and countries, who are you rooting for? Who are you cheerleading for? Again, new path, folks. New way forward. It's got to be together. It's got to be based on spirit informing this whole thing and out of the clutches and the disaster of this man's ego. So anyway, that's all I have for today. I have to tell you, this is, I look at this and I cannot understand how, other than the fact that mind control is like this. And that's what has happened here. He has these rallies and he keeps everybody stirred up, believing his agenda. And if he can't have a rally, he tweets and he keeps everybody stirred up. And everybody thinking that everything that the media or the medical professionals say is all fake. Listen only to him. I alone can fix it. What are you fixing? Are you just trying to kill people? Is that what you're doing, Mr. President? I mean, seriously. Usually I talk to all of you at the end of this. Maybe I should talk to him. What are you doing? Do you even know? Or is your brain so Swiss cheese at this point that you can't even think a thought that's even relevant or even meaningful? What's going on with you? Why can't you take care of us? Why can't you do that? It's up to us now. It's always been up to us, especially with this guy. But, you know, when you've got a political party that is willing to send everyone to their death, who even comes out and says it, you know, oh, well, you've got pastors who'll say, oh, I think if you're spiritual enough, if you're a Christian, if you're enough of a Christian that you should be willing to die for the economy. Really? Yeah, this is where we're at. You've got the Attorney General of the country basically suggesting that we're all wusses for staying inside and away from one another to flatten the pandemic. Can you imagine that? This is where we are. They're pressuring everybody to do things that could harm them, just so the economy gets going, when all they had to do was do this right away, and the economy would be back. But they didn't. So it's on them. Whatever happens, it's all on them. So anyway, thanks for coming by. I don't know, you know, this is really about a change in perception with people and getting everybody on the same page with this. Otherwise, I don't know what happens. I really don't. It's just going to make it so much harder, and it's going to take so much longer. But we're dealing with people in charge that are stupid and self-dealing, and they don't understand anything. And we have to trust them. So no, nobody is. So I hope you have a good governor like we do. I hope that, you know, you've got people around you that are paying attention and not making this more difficult for those that are trying to take care of themselves. One lady I saw on Twitter, a lady was in the grocery store. She's all protected. This guy's walking down, coughing in the aisle. She said something to him. So he basically, you know what he said to her, yeah. So it's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do if they're not going to cooperate with this? So you have all these people and the federal government that's not trying to help us survive. That's scary, isn't it? So hopefully we're going to see a shift in that. We're going to see, as more and more truth comes out about this, as it becomes more obvious what this man has done to us and done to the country and maybe the world. I think a new path is going to form, and I think that we're all going to go there. That's the meaning of the 22 year, I think. Profound, profound change, soul level change that gets us on the right path and hopefully keeps us there. So we'll check in tomorrow. Thank you so much. Check out Stepping Aside, my blog. There's links under the video here, and you want to check them out too. That'd be cool. Some of them are affiliate links, so know if you click on something and you buy anything, I'll earn a commission off the sale. So just be aware of that, and check out the blog. This is going to go up over there, and so will the correspondences and astrological information for today. I don't think I put anything else up anywhere yesterday other than cross-posting. So if I do, I'll let you know. I do a checking in video, and so look for that. And it'll be on Instagram. Sometimes I post it on Twitter. Sometimes on Pinterest. I post a lot of videos over at Instagram and Pinterest for this, just alerting people to what I'm doing. And so check in over there. Plus, let's see, I write on Medium and I also write on Patreon. So check those places out. Patreon is a paid site, but I just have it on donation. So I don't have tiers set up. So, and not everything I write over there is, most of it's public. I just cross post. But some of the stuff I do is just for Patreon. So if you want to see it, then you got to sign up. And thank you so much if you do. I appreciate that. And we'll talk tomorrow. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.